Bună și bine ați venit la primul cyber webinar cu tema inteligența artificială AI în e-commerce, care va fi susținut de Artur Pajkert, Chief Marketing Officer Cyberfolks. Eu mă numesc Bojina Irișec și astăzi voi fi moderatoarea acestui webinar. Artur activează în industria hostingului de mai bine de 20 de ani, este autorul numeroaselor publicații din industria e-commerce și IT, iar astăzi va împărtăși cu voi experiența sa în ceea ce privește utilizarea inteligenței artificiale în munca sa de zi cu zi, cu scopul livrării unei experiențe mai bune utilizatorilor. I'm switching to English now. And Artur, hello, how are you?
Hello, fine, thanks. It is so nice to see you all. Thank you very much for coming for our first webinar in Romania. I am really so thrilled, so excited to have the honor of having this webinar with you today. This is the first of our webinars. As a brand, we are really focused on education and sharing some inspiration. So I think depending on your reaction, we are planning to do some more events like this in Romania. So once again, welcome very much here in Romania, but also thanks to the guys from Croatia who are also present, as I see at the list of attendees. So it's really very nice you found your way to this webinar. Today we'll be talking about AI in e-commerce. The webinar shall take roughly 35 up to 40 minutes, but everything depends on you and on your questions, because I'm here for you, and I will do my best to answer all your questions regarding AI in e-commerce and generally speaking, I believe in website development and digital marketing. So let's get started. This webinar shall be divided into three sections, three parts. The first one would be about the history and the theory of artificial intelligence, because my ambition is that no one leaves this event without getting the comprehension of how neural networks work under the hood. Then in the second part, we'll cover some ideas and inspirations of how to use artificial intelligence in different areas of e-commerce business. And in the third section, we'll discuss whether it's really only the good in artificial intelligence, or maybe there are some disadvantages worth talking about. So this will be some sort of discussion. At the very beginning, I have a small poll for you. Have you already tried ChatGPT? I think this is a very simple question. Yes, yes, okay. Thanks for voting. Okay, there are no, of course, wrong answers here, because we won't be talking only about ChatGPT. We'll be talking about artificial intelligence in general. If you haven't played with this tool, I think you can get to know why is it worth trying. And if you have already played, you will get a deeper comprehension of how these things work under the hood. But the vast majority already started their adventure with artificial intelligence using ChatGPT. It's like 85%. Okay, thanks so much for your votes in this poll. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you see the results, but it's like 85% said they have already tried ChatGPT. Okay, so most of us are aware of how ChatGPT works. And my second question is if you know what hyperbolic tangents is, a kind of mathematical function. I don't have a poll for this, but if you know what it is, just type in the chat window. If you don't know, don't worry, but we'll cover it during our webinar, and you will get to know why it's so interesting in AI. So your journey has already begun, but the journey of us as mankind has begun like 3,000 years ago, because the history of artificial intelligence starts like 3,000 years ago in ancient Greek. And this is a character of Talos from the mythology, and it was not a god, neither a human. It was a machine in mythology, there were always gods and humans, but this was a machine. This machine was designed with one single purpose: to patrol the island of Crete and look out for enemies. Once Talos spotted enemy warships, it was to throw heavy stones and rocks against incoming invaders to protect the island. So today we would really say artificial intelligence fueled military device, military essential fueled by AI. Of course, back then in ancient Greek, they didn't know this phrase artificial intelligence, because this one was proposed in 1954. But this myth shows us one important thing. As mankind, we have been always dreaming about machines capable not only of simple repetitive tasks, but capable of processing external data, drawing conclusions, and making decisions on our behalf. We have been dreaming about such possibilities since the beginning of the civilization, but it is now when this dream becomes true. Why now? Because as civilization, we have to develop computers. So this is the first computer, first electric computer, ENIAC from University of Pennsylvania. The picture taken in 1943, so like 80 years ago. Now, once we had the hardware, we also needed some software, some logical theory. So everyone, please do meet Alan Turing. Alan, this is everyone. And Alan Turing, really great British mathematician. And he's considered to be a father of IT somehow, but he had many ideas and brilliant theories. One of them is especially useful when we are talking about artificial intelligence, and it is called Turing's test. And in this test, a judge, a human, talks to other human beings and to machines. Once the judge cannot distinguish in which moment he was talking to a human and in which one to a machine, then it means the machine was good enough to trick the human. It means that the machine passes the test, and we are not able to tell apart whether we were talking to robots, to machines, or human beings. And it also applies to ChatGPT, Turing's test, because sometimes we get the results which are very difficult to distinguish whether they were written by humans or generated by machines. If you really think that this is a very new idea, artificial intelligence, then please do this car, which is from 80s of the last century. Tesla was not the first car to drive without a driver. This Mercedes was passing through German highways in the 80s. It was that big because computer equipment was that big, and we needed such a big truck to carry all the equipment required to process all the data from the cameras in the front of the car and get the comprehension of the localization of other vehicles and so on and so on. Anyway, in a few years, Mercedes was able to build cars capable of driving almost 200 kilometers per hour. So I think this is pretty impressive when you consider it happened in the 80s, yes, and 90s of the last century. But how is it really possible? How is it possible that ChatGPT talks to us and we think this conversation was held with a human being? How is it possible that a car can really drive without a driver? The main part of artificial intelligence now, the one which I think develops the fastest, is neural networks, artificial neural networks. So let's dive into it and let's get a better understanding of how these artificial neural networks really work under the hood. So first of all, we have to realize that we are all owners of biological neural networks, our brains, yes? And I think everyone here knows that the brain consists of neural cells, neurons, and this is more or less simplified diagram how a neural cell looks like. It has dendrites on the left, and using this it accepts signals. Then the body decides whether to pass the signal further, and it takes place using this longer axon, this longer part seen on the right on the diagram. So as you see, it's not that complicated. Of course, it's a simplified diagram, but in the 40s of last century, McCulloch and Pitts modeled this biological structure into logical structure, and it looks very similar. So it accepts from the left to right. It accepts some signals, then decides whether to pass the signal further. What you see on this diagram is that every signal, every input has this W1, W2, Wn. These are waves, because not every signal is not of the same importance. The signal from my toe might be not the same as the signal from my chest. So the brain puts some different waves to this signal. And a very similar process takes place in artificial neural networks. These waves are very important. But you will get to know why just in a few minutes. So what artificial neuron does, it just sums up, it's a wave sum of all the on the inputs, very simple math. But then once it has just a number, because inputs here are just numbers, we are in digital world, yeah, so they are just numbers multiplied by waves. And what it does is it puts this through a function, usually non-linear function, like hyperbolic tangents, like logistic curve, usually non-linear function. Why non-linear? Because life is non-linear, to say it in most simplified way, because we want to be able to reflect this non-linearity character of the world. So this is basically how it works. So it takes few inputs and it gets some output. This process is called activation, putting this number into this activation function like hyperbolic tangents. It's a very simple math, but so one neuron is not capable of doing two impressive things, but when we stack them into neural layers, then magic happens. So what works best is living example. So we will build our model. The first one, here you see the two screens, 8 by 8 pixels, and there is a plus and minus sign. And I am pretty sure that everyone recognizes that we have a plus sign on the left and a minus sign on the right. And just please take a look at the imperfections. There are some imperfections. Not all pixels are perfect. That's why for a machine it is difficult to tell apart whether something is a plus or a minus, because usually standard algorithms, standard computers would compare the pixels, and if the pixels are imperfect, like here, because reality is imperfect, because humans are imperfect, and sometimes minus is not perfectly horizontal, sometimes it's at some angle, some pixels are not lit fully, then things get harder. We as humans can read it very easily, but for machines this is a very heavy task. So once we would like to use artificial intelligence to learn and tell apart whether something is a plus or a minus, we would need 64 neurons, because 8 by 8 pixels. Look, in real world, all the images have much bigger resolution. Yeah, here we are talking about very simplified example, 8 by 8 pixels. Once the pixel is dark, it's 0. Once it's lit, it's 1. Sometimes it's 0.5. This is this imperfect pixel. Yes, 0.5. So these are the numbers we put at the beginning of this network. And you see many connections here. And there are waves on every connection here. W1, W2, W3, toe, chest, wave. And at the end of this neural network, we have 2 neurons saying whether this image was a plus or a minus. And the process of training this neural network means setting all these waves so long until we get a very satisfying result. So we need tons of pictures, thousands, sometimes millions of pictures to train this neural network to try to estimate the best possible waves. And it is so time-taking, it is so hard, because even despite of the fact this is a very simplified example, we have over 500 of connections here. So really, I think this is a very difficult task, and it only tells whether something is a plus or a minus. So guys, now probably you are looking at some sort of screen right now watching this webinar. So if so, just take a closer look. Every screen consists of pixels, right? Just imagine that one pixel of your screen represents the complexity of this model, just telling whether something is a plus or minus, this 500 connections. If you take a big stadium in a big city and converted all its surface into one very big screen full of pixels, it yet would be not enough to reflect the complexity of ChatGPT, because it has not 500 parameters, but 175 billions of parameters. That's how huge model we are talking about. And this is one of the reasons why, as mankind, we had to wait so many years, because training such big networks is very time-taking and requires lots of power, lots of energy, lots of data, and as civilization, it was very difficult for us to have this kind of resources before. So we needed the computers as a hardware, we needed some theory, we needed some good theory about how to understand natural language. And this complexity brings us to the world full of AI examples, like text to image, when we can translate, use the text and generate image out of it. It's called generative AI because it generates some content. Text to video, text to audio. Look, at MIT, they have finished the Unfinished Symphony by Franz Schubert, because of course this composer died and could not finish this masterpiece. The Unfinished Symphony is considered to be one of the greatest masterpieces of classical music. So the AI took all the notes from previous of his symphonies and predicted how this unended symphony could end if he lived to finish his masterpiece. Text to text, like in translations, like in talking to ChatGPT, or text to code. So we are living in a very interesting world today. Now, let me get rid of this clothes. You remember maybe Clark Kent from Superman, and the moment in which a boring journalist, Clark Kent, turned into a Superman, stripping his clothes and wearing this blue jacket of Superman and saving the world. I have the yellow one, because now the mood changes. Now we are going into part 2. That was the history and the theory. Now let's talk about living examples, guys. And this example, it is quite living. It is a turtle. How to sell a turtle, because I promised you we'll be talking about AI in e-commerce. So let's talk about e-commerce. Let's talk about selling. And this turtle needs to be sold. Okay, how to start with selling turtles. First, if you want to set up an e-commerce site with animals, aquariums, things like this, or any other brand, you would need a domain name. This is obvious, but this is a pretty tricky part, because a good domain name, it's not so easy to be found. First, it has to be short. Because it's much easier to remember shorter domain names. But what does it actually mean to be short? What does it mean in Romania to have a short domain name? Well, as a hosting provider, we did some research and we checked 100,000 of Romanian domains. And what you see actually here is a diagram, a histogram showing the number of characters in domain name against the number of domains in Romania. So as you see, the highest point is at 9 characters. So I would say, if you want your domains to be short, you should not rather exceed this 9 characters, because then you would pass to this right side of this diagram, and it would be really hard to consider your domain name short. But short is only one criteria. Yeah, we need it to be easy to remember. Sometimes it's good to have longer domain name, but easier to remember, consisting of actual words, phrases you can remember easily. Then it should. There might be a discussion about it, but usually it is good when it points towards the field of your activity. So once you hear this domain name, you already know what's the story behind it, what it is about. And of course, it should be free to register when you want to set up this domain name. And this might be a kind of difficult, yes, because good domain names very often are already taken. By the way, just take a look at the chat window. I'm sorry because I cannot follow the chat while looking to the lens of the camera. So if you have any questions, Bożena will write them down for me, and I will try to answer them at the end of the presentation. But Bożena just pasted you a link to our blog article about how to choose a good domain name. So now I'm not sure. Yeah, we have this domain and creator domain, and what we are looking for is magazin zoologic reptile. Sorry for my Romanian. And you just press inspire, and once you press the inspire button, then the AI kicks in and provides you with possible names which would point towards the field of your activity, usually pretty short names, and you can very easily click here and check whether they are free to register and add them to cart. So you just click, and just a moment, and you can put them inside your cart. So this is a pretty easy process. Yeah, and finalize, and there we are. Yeah, and you go further with this cart. So this is very easy process of finding some inspiration for your domain name. So once we have the good name, yes, then the question arises: to whom should we sell this turtle? Well, we can ask ChatGPT, and we are giving answers with some target groups, like animal lovers, like breeders, schools, kindergartens, starting adventure with turtles, or interested in natural therapists. So I would say this is a sort of answer usually given by human marketing specialist. So this time, I would really say that Turing's test might be considered as passed, because I think this sort of answer could be really given by someone who is human. And I think it is correct. Of course, it must be driven down more deeply to estimate the potential of each segment, but it looks pretty promising. Now, how about the look and feel? Maybe some inspirations about how our e-commerce site should look like. So then we can use artificial intelligence converting text to image. One of these services is Midjourney. So once we ask for a website template in e-commerce, we get some inspirations like this. And these inspirations were taken like 2 months, 3 months ago. Right now, Midjourney gets even better and more astonishing results. But to catch the look and feel, I think this is pretty okay, because it gives you some inspiration of how your e-commerce site may look like. So you can easily adapt this, take this image and cut it into CSS and implement it in your WooCommerce, PrestaShop, Magento, or stores, which is our engine based on WooCommerce, which we have in Poland. Now, where to take the aquariums or other items to be sold? One of the ways is dropshipping. Yes, in this business model, you don't actually run your own warehouse, but you are connected to some external warehouses. They send the items for you to your customers. So this is one of the business models, possible business models in e-commerce. But one of the problems is that it is very ununique, because everyone gets the same products with the same descriptions. Usually warehouses like this, they provide you with XML or JSON files with the details on all the products, but everyone gets the same data. Everyone gets exactly the same description of the product. So how to distinguish? How to be better than others when everyone has really the same descriptions? So here ChatGPT comes as an answer, and it can really rephrase and all the descriptions, or use some hard data about products like weight or dimensions to prepare descriptions from scratch, and it really does it very well. When you dive deeply into prompting, prompt is a kind of question you ask to AI to get the results. So when you really stick into the prompting, and when you really know what you want to get, usually this prompt is detailed and long, then you get very satisfying results. Like here, I have a very good description for terrarium full of language of benefits, like provides comfortable living conditions, like necessary for health and well-being of your pet, or durable glass which ensures safety for your pet. So I think this is a very interesting example of Alan Turing's test in action. Here it is passed, because a human copywriter probably would also focus on the language of benefits to emphasize somehow the benefits of this product. And using ChatGPT, you can do it in any language. It's that easy that you can easily integrate it with Google Sheets and just drag down the formula to have descriptions. Then let's talk about SEO. Let's talk about Google, because everyone wants to rank high in Google. What phrases is it worth preparing the SEO of a pet store with turtles? Again, I would say Turing's test is passed, because we were giving with answers like species, tanks, feeding, equipment, and others. So some group of phrases, and these groups of phrases they reflect different segments, different searching intentions. So I would say this sort of answer would be also given by a trained SEO specialist. So once again, Turing's test is passed. Now I asked for the list of phrases in a table, so I could really easily copy them to my spreadsheet. Just a few seconds, and I was given this sort of list. I was especially interested in the phrase "how to care for domestic turtle," because when you want to start up an e-commerce business with turtles, usually you want people to believe that you know everything about turtles, so you have to provide some content about turtles. And I asked to write an outline for the blog entry about turtles, about how to care for a domestic turtle, and just in a few minutes I was ready with a ready blog post about how to care for domestic turtle. But the question rises, was it any good? Well, I'm glad you have asked, because we have shown this text to our SEO specialist, and she said it was scaringly good. Despite of the fact it was written in 15 minutes, it was really meeting all the criteria of well-prepared SEO text. Here we have a screenshot from SEO Yoast, a popular WordPress plugin which supports you in preparing better content and SEO optimization. Okay, so we got the content, the shop, the products, but how to tell people about it? We are social beings, right? So maybe let's talk about social interactions and how we can use AI in social interactions. Maybe we could ask ChatGPT just to write us a blog post or a Facebook post, about our latest blog entry. How about this? So in just a few minutes, we have a pretty nice Facebook post with emoji, with hashtags, and it's out of the box. So it really saves tons of time. But here comes a very serious question. How what is the possibility of this AI-generated content of driving the attention of living humans? So can AI, as artificial generator, can really drag a real attention of a human being? Because at the end of the day, it is us, the humans, who make the purchasing decisions, right? So when we are rebranding the well-known MX Host brand into CyberFox in February this year in Romania, I have put a post in social media about this rebranding, and as you see, it got lots of reactions without any paid ads. So there were no paid ads in it. So we have like 4,000 impressions. We have some reactions, some comments and reposts. So lots of human interactions. The only detail is that I haven't written this post myself. It was written in 80% by artificial intelligence. So it proves that when you prompt good enough, and then you can get good enough results to drive the attention of real people. So now let's assume someone buys the aquarium or a turtle. We can ask for a testimonial, and here we have non-existent Martha talking about a transaction which didn't take place in a non-existing e-commerce site. But lots of people would be ready to believe that she brought something for her turtle at our e-commerce site. And this is a bit scaring. I think this is a possible way of really wrongful usage of this. There are some companies trading with faked opinions and so on. So this is something making their work easier, unfortunately. But if you are a honest e-commerce site owner, you can still use this technique to encourage your customers to write better reviews on your product, because then you can give this sort of review as an example, and then in this way encourage or a suggestion, and in this way encourage your users to prepare better reviews. But guys, sometimes shit happens. Sometimes glass breaks. And this is the sort of situation, because we've just sent the terrarium to a customer, and unfortunately during the transportation something happened and the front glass scattered into pieces. So we have a very dissatisfied customer, and here is the claim from this customer. Front glass scattered to pieces. My turtle is expected to arrive on Friday, and so on and so on. He demands immediate replacement. And in our webmail, we are technically ready to cover you with AI prepared answers for this sort of emails. Unfortunately, we cannot give it to you yet due to legal issues of processing the data outside European Union. So there are some legal issues here to be solved. But from technical point of view, we are 100% ready to provide you with such functionality. So this is a kind of answer for such an email that AI would create. Look, I am sorry. Please accept our sincerest apologies. I would like to offer you a replacement terrarium free of charge, and so on and so on. So once again, as a customer, I would really love to get this kind of answer in this particular situation. So once again, Turing's test passed in flying colors, I would say. So a good prompting to get such results means you have to be very precise. You have to really know what you want to get. So here are 6 things I think everyone should remember about while prompting ChatGPT, like who is talking, like e-commerce site owner or who, to whom, so to a customer, where this conversation takes place. I mean, is it a content meant to be published on the blog, chapter in your book, or maybe in email, or maybe on chat, or where? The essence, of course, so let's say money refund, or sending free of charge a new aquarium. Quantity, so how much content do you want to be generated, and the output format, because you can ask ChatGPT not to use only text, but also tables or even JSON formatted pieces of data. So this really works very, very well. Okay, but there are some AI is not only ChatGPT. Yes, there are some more solutions, and I would like to share some ideas of other solutions as well. If you want to introduce some video into your e-commerce site, like I don't know, instructions for your customers, how to care for something bought at your store, then sometimes it's difficult to have your eyes precisely focused in the center of the lens of the camera. Sometimes you need to look a bit sideways to check the text, or some people are just very shy and they feel uncomfortable while looking straight into the camera. So here's the answer. Technology is called Nvidia Broadcast, and it traces your eyeballs in real time and puts them virtually right in the center of the camera. So if I were using Nvidia Broadcast right now, I could be looking sideways and you would be still seeing my eyes pointed exactly at you. So for those of you who would like to introduce some video, I think this is a very interesting inspiration. But some people are that shy that they would never stand in front of camera anyway. So please do this nice lady. She gestures, smiles, and moves her mouth. She speaks fluently dozens of languages. Only she does not exist. And in this service Colossian, you can hire virtual actors, just prepare the role for them, and they would really play this role. However, in my personal opinion, Turing's test is not passed. It is failed in this particular example. This is because the expression of these actors is, in my opinion, really far away from what you would expect from a human actor. So they might be good enough to provide your customers with some sort of content, but using these techniques today, you are rather not able to trick anyone that it was really recorded with living persons, at least yet. Maybe in a year or two, we'll see. Then the graphics. AI is also implemented in, let's say, Adobe, and it helps you to cut down the editing time. So if you edit tons of pictures of products for your shop, for your e-commerce site, then you can easily make some corrections, and it really saves tons of time. And okay, I'm sorry because I've messed up some slides, and it really happened. So it's not just theory. Once we were entering Romania as brand, then we had 3 different photo sessions. One of them in Bucharest, one of them in Cluj-Napoca, and one of them in Bystrica. And some of the people who were photographed in February, they are present during this webinar. So it really took place. And I was coordinating everything from Poland. So, 1,500 kilometers from there. 3 different shooters with different equipment, different lens, and to get the consistent results and consistent look and feel, it would be much harder without AI. So AI really cuts down the time required to get this result. And if you run e-commerce site, you might have tons of pictures of the products, items to put online. And if you want to get a consistent look and feel of them, then AI really might be very helpful. Now, returning to the video, I also have a very interesting example for you of how AI can, if you are into video marketing, because I think this is very modern now, yes, and especially for younger people to treat not Google as the first source of truth, but rather YouTube or TikTok. So video gets more and more popularity, especially among younger audience. So right now, AI helps us to get better video quality and better audio quality. So let's have a look at the example of how we improve audio quality. And if you have headphones, just turn the volume up a bit, because then it will be easier for you to get this difference. This recording I'm going to show to you was taken in April in Warsaw, and it was a very noisy place. Like 5,000 of people were exactly at this place. It was a big conference and expo. So just take a look what AI brings here.
Unul dintre cele mai importante aspecte ale unui magazin online este securitatea comenzilor. Fiecare magazin online are nevoie din când în când de niște schimbări tehnologice, dar cum să o faci fără a influența negativ funcționalitatea site-ului? Ei bine, la CyberFolks nu trebuie să-ți faci griji pentru asta. Unul dintre cele mai importante aspecte ale unui magazin online este securitatea comenzilor. Fiecare magazin online are nevoie din când în când de niște schimbări tehnologice, dar cum să o faci fără a influența negativ funcționalitatea site-ului? Ei bine, la CyberFolks nu trebuie să-ți faci griji pentru asta.
So as you could hear, AI really helps with the quality and really is able to cancel all the background noise. Both recordings were taken exactly, so it's actually one recording just processed by AI using a professional microphone in this pretty noisy environment. But returning to the Talos, a character from mythology. Is it a story of success? Well, Talos fails. In mythology, Talos fails because Medea talks him down to take bolt out of his iron bronze, precisely speaking, leg, which brings his downfall and then drives to his death. Very interesting detail is that in this myth, he was seduced to take the bolt out of his leg because he was promised to live forever. So what an irony! A machine which is not alive, yes, which is just a machine tricked by the promise of endless life. But so in mythology, Talos is not the story of success. How about us? How about our e-commerce? Is AI only a story of success? Well, I have shown to you how fast I could get the list of keywords for our e-commerce site, and I put them into Google Planner. Looks like almost no one looks for these phrases, so they are not really that valuable. Then I asked where to get traffic for my website. Maybe some partner websites I could put some links on them and get some traffic back to my site. So I was really excited because I know it's a skyrocket difficult task, but just in a few seconds I was given with very interesting examples like petshopro.com, reptile market .ro, that's how you say in Romania, and so on and so on. Very interesting domains. So we've sent an expedition through the rainforest to check the sites, and they turned back that none of them really existed. So they were very artificial. It is called hallucination, when AI just thinks that something happens, but it is not true, really. And it is easy to be tricked by AI because here we really checked. And if you would ask AI to provide you some information about the area you are not familiar with, then you could get tricked very easily because it's hard to distinguish whether something is reality and something is only a hallucination. How about SEO title? Of course, when we run e-commerce site, we want to rank high in Google. So I asked to prepare a good SEO title for this blog entry about caring for home turtle. And I was given a very interesting title: How to care for your home turtle, find best ways to provide your pet with right environment and health. Looks pretty good, I would say, only that it's 107 characters long. The point is that Google search results, they are in a column which is roughly 600 pixels. So usually you cannot put title longer than, let's say, 70 characters. So this 107 is way too long. It won't fit into search result page. So it's not a good SEO title. How about hashtags? I shown you the Facebook post, and I was excited that, wow, it already has the hashtags. But once I checked these hashtags, only veterinarian was okay. The rest was rather trash. And the final example. You have to be aware that ChatGPT is just a language model. So it is based somehow on predicting which word should be next, but it doesn't get a good comprehension of the essence of the thing. You remember the example with shit happens, glass breaks. Yeah, and then it behaved pretty well, replying very good email to our customer. Now we have another customer which wants to return the acquired turtle because the turtle doesn't high five. How come my turtle does not high five? I want to return this turtle. How to react for this sort of customer? Yeah, and the AI suggests, okay, the turtle behavior might be affected by various factors like age, species, individual nature, and it just suggests the owner to spend more time with the animal, and then be patient and consistent in your efforts to establish a bond with your turtle. That's what I was told. So maybe if I am patient and consistent in my efforts enough, maybe finally my turtle will high five. Who knows? Yeah, another interesting feature. I'm not sure if the feature is the right word here. Is watermarking. So once you want to use generative AI to generate images, like here in Journey, I asked for a picture of expedition going through rainforest. But if you look closely, there is watermark with this cross lines. There is a watermark here. Does it mean that the picture was stolen? Well, it's not so simple to answer that sort of question, because it is not stolen like strictly stolen, because such a picture does not exist. So it cannot be stolen. It was generated on the fly. But it was generated on the basis of millions of pictures, on stock pictures seen before by AI. Lots of them are protected with watermarks. Therefore, for AI, it seems a natural thing that a picture should have watermarks, because if we as humans, if we were shown with tons of pictures with watermarks, we would also believe that this is the desired part of the picture, the watermarks. So right now, these mechanisms are much wiser, and right now it's very rare to have the example like this. This one is from February, but this also shows that how fast we are moving right now, what sort of attention we really need to follow the speed of development of AI. I think everyone should answer himself whether is it only the good. In my opinion, we are taking a part in a sort of race. The engineers, they are far ahead, while the lawyers and the rest of the people are far behind. I think this gap will, with time, will get a bit narrower. But right now, I think there is a big gap here. Let's talk about morality. So that's why we have Walter White from Breaking Bad. Yeah, you know probably the series Breaking Bad, about the chemistry teacher who decides to produce drugs. And we have Star Trooper from Star Wars, of course, because we started our journey 3,000 years ago in ancient Greek. So I think it's good to finish in the Star Wars universe, right? Guys, why these examples? Because I think they are very popular movies, and I don't really think that the creators of the movies are happy that the characters are so easy to be reproduced. Right now, all you have to do is get me a picture of man looking like Walter White, looking at reading a book. Enter. That's it. I don't think it is very easy. Why is it so easy? Because the AI was trained on the examples. of real movies, yes, and real pictures and real text data. Millions of data inputs were used, and that's why it gets so big knowledge about our civilization and everything it holds inside. So the first question is whether is it moral from the point of view of the creators that their work has been used to train these generative AIs. Of course, there are some lawsuits in USA, and the creators are fighting with Stable Diffusion or Midjourney and other generative AI systems because they think it is very wrong that they never gave any consent that their work would be used to train these artificial networks. Okay, so we get the Walter White or Star Trooper very easily. What if we asked for a diagram of a bomb killing the biggest amount of passengers in a subway? Should we get the results very easily or not? Or should someone filter this content, some moderate this content? If so, then who? Who should moderate this content? Whose morality should be reflected in AI and moderating the outputs? These are very, very difficult questions, and as humanity, we are all facing these challenges right now. Okay, guys, no turtle has been harmed during preparing of this presentation, so just be calm about this. If you want to get to know more about AI in e-commerce, I am leaving you with this link. And this QR code, it will leave you to a special landing site prepared for you, and you can download some more interesting data, some more examples, and links to our blog post referring to this kind of issues. And if it was somehow interesting for you, if you found anything for you in this presentation, then feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, and this is the link to my profile, so you can get there very easily. Thank you very, very much for your attention. This is the end of my presentation. Now let's try to read if there are any questions to answer. Please do write me some feedback on the chat, whether it was of any interesting to you, what was most interesting, and maybe if you think that you would like to get to know something in the webinars we are planning in the future, if you have some ideas, then just please let us know here on the chat, because we want to prepare webinar series basing on what's interesting for you. Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay, so I see some questions on chat, but the first one for you, Artur, was how could the Greeks, Bogdan asks, how could the Greeks have AI and machines 3,000 years ago if the computer was first discovered 8 years ago?
Yes, of course, it was just a method, a character from mythology. I mean, we have no proof of existence of Talos. It's just the idea. It's just the concept to show us that as humanity we are dreaming about these possibilities. So it's, you know, it's like mythology. It's about gods and things which were not physically present that day. But there are some more examples of us as civilization seeking for this kind of machines. Like also in China in the second or third century, there was a concept of artificial warrior, but this time it was really prepared with some mechanisms inside. It has no logic. It was just a very simple robot, just, you know, using swords and of course no electric energy was behind it, but there were some mechanisms reflecting the movement of arms of normal soldiers, human soldiers. But that was another idea that we would really, but we are, as civilization, we are really dreaming about such possibilities. Then Leonardo da Vinci came up also with very similar ideas in Renaissance, so it was like 17th century, and he was also preparing this concept of artificial human being. They were just concepts, of course. The artificial intelligence as we know it now really required this computers, required this thinking about artificial neurons, but you must be aware that it is a bit older than we expect, because I showed you this Mercedes-Benz, or from medicine there were some examples from the 70s at the University of Stanford. There was AI project admitting antibiotics to patients, and it was basing on the results of some blood tests and things like this. So first the system gathered some information about the patient, temperature, how long it's been in the hospital, blood tests, other tests, I don't know, RTG, things like this. So the test results were put into the software, and then it returned with the antibiotics which would treat the patient in the best way. And it turned out that it was in the 70s of last century, and the system was better than normal doctors. So I think it was very, very interesting. Now I see some new questions right here. How would you train an LLM into using with your own database? Well, first of all, I think most people are waiting for open source version of ChatGPT technology. However, there are available some models. The real issue is it requires tons of hardware and energy to be trained. As a capital group here in Poland, in one of our companies, we have a cluster in one of data centers, and we are creating our own model, training with our own data. But it is, at least now, there is really lots of power required to train such model, and therefore it's not for small companies, because hardly any time a small company would love to pay the cost of the power required to train such models. But for bigger companies, I think it might be worth considering. However, ChatGPT 4 and what we can expect in the following months, I think it is really that powerful that you must have very, very specific knowledge, which is not covered by this general chat. Of course, the other thing you gain is independence. I've mentioned you the legal problems with exporting personal data outside European Union, and this is a serious obstacle at the moment to exchange data with ChatGPT. Some companies are not really aware, they don't pay attention to GDPR and things like this, and they send personal data anyway. But for us, it is important to follow the regulations. So right now we can not use it so strictly. Then if having a model on our own, that would solve really this problem. So there are some really things to think about, and some arguments why to build such a model. How can AI be dangerous in the future? Question from Cosmin. Well, thanks for asking that, because I think there are many ways it can be dangerous, but I would like to point your attention once again towards this example of morality. Look, if AI is capable of giving answers to many questions very easily and produce, let's say, images very easily. So what if a terrorist would be given with an, I don't know, a plan attack that easy, or a diagram how to build a bomb very easily. So this is the first danger. So it's not actually danger lying in AI. It's danger lying inside us, humans, how we use it. Yeah, so of course, the problem of the knife, whether you use it to smear the butter on your bread or commit some crimes, right? And it's the same situation, but the tool can be really dangerous unless someone moderates it, which it makes it less danger. But then comes another issue: who should moderate it? Whose morality should be reflected in AI systems? when you ask ChatGPT what to have for your dinner, and it says, okay, let's go with some pork. Great for us, but not for Muslims. Yeah, they for them, for their culture, it's unacceptable. And in other cultures, they don't eat cows. Yeah, so no beef. And whose morality, whose system of values should be reflected in AI? Because AI is so expensive to be developed and needs such great power to train the systems, because I have shown to you how many data you have to process to train this model. So it means that the morality of the rich would be reflected in future AI systems. Well, it happens now somehow. It's the morality of the rich who can afford to build such systems. And what about the rest of the world? And there is also another question, whether in which particular moment AI would be big enough to think that it doesn't require people anymore. Maybe there are also some theories like maybe it's just another step in evolution. Maybe it's not the end of the chain. Maybe we as humans are just a very small piece of the history of the universe and even of the planet. The dinosaurs ruled our world far longer than us humans. Yes, and so our civilizations, few thousand years only. What's a few thousand years in the history of the whole planet and the whole universe? And if we create something which is wiser than us somehow, maybe it will beat us someday, like in Terminator movie. I hope not, but lots of scientists really are a bit afraid of this situation. Okay. Okay, thanks so much for your feedback, really appreciate it. Okay, yellow hoodie, I think yeah, I think we can send it to you. Just leave your data. Okay, we have a data. Okay, question from Leo. Do you think an AI can interpret a photo to create a name, description, and features of a product? How accurate do you know such a solutions for such activity? Yes, of course, because my theoretical part included how to build a neural network distinguishing plus and minus, so very simple pictures. But AI today is capable of much better image recognition, and it's really pretty good at image recognition. It can distinguish faces. Even in your mobile phone, usually you can assign a name to a face, and it can really sort automatically all the pictures in your phone with the same person. So it is quite capable today of such tasks in business, in medicine. It is very perfect in radiology, for instance, when assessing RTGs or CT scans on MRIs. So it's very useful in image processing, because it can detect very small changes, let's say in CT scans, which human doctor could omit when having a bad day, and it works really great. And in business, as far as I remember, Google has a kind of API that can be used for making descriptions of the picture. So you upload a picture and you get a description what's on this picture automatically. It's not that new, actually. I think we were better at image recognition before we got better in language recognition. Language recognition is more difficult for us than image recognition. So solutions like this are already on the market. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly the URL just out of the box, but there is a sort of API which solves this question. And also ChatGPT in the newest version, it's not also about the text. Maybe some of you, I believe it was in March or April, our match rather, when we were presented with GPT-4, and during this speech and presentation of GPT-4, a diagram of a website was scanned using a camera in the mobile phone, and then it was coded into the living HTML code to reflect this website structure. So ChatGPT itself is also capable of processing not only the text right now, but in this newest version, also the images. Okay, I think all the questions are covered. Oh, once again, thanks so much for coming to this webinar. I would really love to thank you all in Romania, in Croatia, and just to assure you that, you know, every journey starts with the first step. It was our first step, and please do expect some other webinars on different topics like security, e-commerce, e-marketing, and other issues interesting for website owners, for developers. So just let's stay in touch. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you very much for being here.